Hey guys, welcome to another show here on the Prof Sales YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about how to turn your failure into success in business. And I have my good friend Jared Eliseo here.
Hey, how you doing?
And we're here live from the warehouse. That should be like a thing, like a hashtag.
Yeah,
Somebody needs to. This is Jared's first visit here too, so I've been showing him everything we're doing here. So that's been pretty exciting. But as many of you know or don't know, Jared is also, I started a relationship with him as a CPA, but he's really evolved into a bit more than that, I think.
Yeah. And
become more like a business advisor, friend, confidant, travel companion. No, we don't do that.
No,
we don't go that far. But he's a really good guy and been a great source of inspiration to me and my business and help and just bouncing ideas off of. So he approached me about doing a show today about, failure and some of his failures. So he's going to share some of that, but we're letting everybody fill in. This is a live show for most of you and already know that. But if you don't know that, this channel is about reselling. It's about being an entrepreneur. It's about your mindset. It's about staying positive. It's about, basically how you approach your business. And we like that, you guys are here today, part of this community. We're here live. There's a live chat room. You can ask questions. You can leave comments as we go. But if you don't get to see this show live, please leave a question or a comment afterwards. And just a quick programming note, Jared's information, his link to his YouTube channel is in the description of this show's video. This video's shows video. Was that right? This shows that something about that sounded really wrong. But anyway, check that out when you get a chance somewhere down below. This is a debacle already. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm terrible. But we're going to talk to you guys about success and failure. And basically, I think that, Jared approached me about this a few days ago. And we talked about topics and so on. And we mentioned, well, maybe we'll, obviously in his field, he deals with a lot of businesses. He deals with a lot of things like tax preparation, with strategic planning for how to set up your business and so on to, basically run it very profitably. But the reality is a lot of the reasons why he's doing those things comes back to this success and failure formula. So, but this is his show, so I'm not going to talk too much here. But we're going to start out with just a kind of a quick couple background. We actually have real notes here, so maybe we'll be somewhat on point here. They're Jerry's notes, so if they're bad, you can blame him. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But so I'm curious, Jared, obviously you're an entrepreneur too.
Right.
And you and I struck up this business relationship right off the beginning and said, look, I'm running this business and I'm an entrepreneur and this is what I want to do. But it's kind of interesting to me because here I am as an entrepreneur going to you as an entrepreneur in a different field. But what sort of got you inspired to even go into business for yourself in the first place?
Sure. So, to answer that question is kind of like to answer the why. Why are you doing something? And for me, I spent 10 years working for big companies, working in big industry, doing endless reports that just kind of went into these black holes.
Endless reports. I love
endless
those. Those are the best.
It was just like
TPS reports.
Pretty much. If you've ever seen Office Space, exactly. That's exactly
Never
what
too
it
early
was.
for an Office Space reference.
And no one's there reviewing it. It's just, it goes in this black hole. I never hear about it. Never is an exaggeration, but there were plenty of times where no one was giving me feedback on my work, or they'd come back 6 months later, a year later, asking about a project. And I'm providing all this great quality product and service to my companies and to my bosses, but there's no one there answering to me, and kind of like giving me feedback on it. So great talent, giving it to the wrong audience. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, there must be people out there that could use my skill set. Small businesses came to mind. I loved reading about entrepreneurship. I loved reading about small business owners. And it just struck me, that's a great audience, and individuals too. They need help too. They have a need. So I got inspired to quit my job and start an accounting firm so that I could service that clientele.
Right.
that was one side of it. The other side of it too, it was a little bit more selfish. I wanted to work for myself, not to like be on a power trip or be my own boss, anything crazy.
But why not?
Right. I mean, that's a nice benefit, but at the same time,
it's all about the power.
I've got the flexibility. If I want to cut out and go away for a week, grab my laptop, get out of town. I don't have to ask someone, wait for 6 approvals to get that to happen. It's all on me when I want to do it, when I want to do my work, how I want to get it done. It's all on me. And it's a double-edged sword, but at the same time, I love it. I would not go back if I don't have to.
Yeah. So. I mean, there's such a freedom, I guess, in going to business for yourself. But obviously there's also a lot of responsibilities. And just as an side note, you left a successful career. Yes. By any, like you've told me some about it behind the scenes, and you left a very successful career with big companies, large corporations, and so on. So how did you navigate that? Oh, I'm stepping out on the ledge here, and I'm stepping back from this job safety of working for somebody who's stable and not likely to disappear tomorrow. And all of a sudden my job is gone. Like, how did you navigate that mental process, if nothing else?
I spent, I'll say, an enormous amount of time really researching and kind of trying to figure out what exactly did that look like? What did I want to do after I left this job? Because like you said, if people knew kind of the safety, the security that I had, that I left behind, probably would say you're crazy.
Right. And did you have anybody who told you, hey, this isn't going to work, Jared?
Yeah.
Were they family members? Those are always the best.
I mean, the family's always a little skeptical, but at the same time, they start to see traction and they come around pretty quick. And they're your critic in the beginning, but they become cheerleaders very quickly for you. Right. And I think it's just the hesitation. They want your family, your friends, the people closest to you. They don't want you to do something that's going to hurt you, harm yourself. So they're looking out for you. It's just kind of met with love, and I knew that.
Yeah.
And I didn't take it personally, but there were plenty of naysayers that I wasn't related to, coworkers and colleagues. And
I'm sure some people in the chat have probably had a similar.
Yes.
Has anybody in the chat ever had a similar encounter where, hey, I'm going to go into business for myself reselling, and people are like, what?
Or doing anything. I mean, and someone just kind of coming out and saying, don't do that. You'll never make it. And it's so disheartening. It's like, who are you to tell me I'm not going to make it? Who are you to tell me I can't do this?
Yeah. So, yeah. And did you have anything mentally inside you that told you, I'm not so sure about this? I mean, was there doubt inside you that wasn't from other people?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I remember, the first week when I was working for myself for the very first week, I'm fresh out of my old job. I'm the firm's running full time now. And that's like, I got to start making money and
got to start making money now. Turns out.
Right. Cause
it's the worst part.
Yeah. The paychecks aren't coming anymore. So I'm responsible for making the paycheck. And I just remember the first week, I'm all jacked up. I'm doing everything I can. I've got kind of, rose-colored glasses on. And by week 3, 4, it's like, what did I do? What did I do? Did I make the right decision? By month 2 should I go back?
How many months did I come along into this decision?
You were pretty early on. You were pretty early on.
I was at the beginning when there was still a maximum chance of failure for Jared.
Yes. And here I am. So you've seen it. You've seen all the progression.
That's true.
But then I'll say about 6 months into what I was doing, I turned a corner and started to get very comfortable that this was going to succeed, that this was going to be, everything I wanted it to be.
Right.
And suddenly, I just remember realizing one day it was like flicking a switch. Not that I don't have to worry about it, but I don't have to think so much about that anymore. That anxiety level went down pretty significantly.
Right. Right. And that's, and I guess we all kind of reach those points, but then we get, new anxieties that come along. Absolutely. And that kind of leads us into sort of the next question and I'm kind of curious, some of you guys in the chat were saying, the Seam Store said, my friends thought I was crazy as well. And now they ask me, what awesome thing did you sell lately? That's always what people, They either do that, or when they tell them you sell on eBay or Amazon, they're like, hey, can you sell this doohickey for me that, goes for $8 with free shipping? You're like, no, I cannot. That comes up too. They're like, great, you can sell this for me. It's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. But what sort of, all right, so you decide to make this leap into a business, and what sort of roadblocks did you sort of run into? I'm sure, now, aside from the mental part, even there was probably strategic things and financial things and all sorts of, what sort of roadblocks did you encounter?
Sure. So something, not a lot of people know this. It's not a story I share very often, but about 7 years ago, so we'll go back to 2011, I had another accounting firm I started with, a good friend from growing up. He and I both had very similar paths. We went to school, both got our licenses. We actually both started with the same company. We worked out of different offices, but we had access to each other. We talked pretty often. We decided we're going to do this for ourselves. We can do it. This isn't a big deal. We know exactly how to do this.
We've done this before.
Yeah, right. A couple of years into our careers, we got this figured out.
How hard could this be?
So, well, it's insanely hard. And that's what we learned very fast. So what we did, we started this accounting firm, and we sold everything. Everything an accountant could do, we could do.
This is like on being a reseller, guys. You sell everything.
Everything. Could do everything. It was amazing what we could do, what we thought we could do. And we had no idea that there was a limit and there was a limitation, and we couldn't really do this.
Right.
So we're selling everything to everybody. This was, and it doesn't sound like a roadblock, but it is. It's because we didn't know.
Right.
It totally backfired on us. Another roadblock that we ran into was just no marketing. We didn't have a plan because we didn't have a product. We didn't really know what we were selling. We're selling everything.
Well, so let's go out there and do something.
Exactly.
And it'll just happen.
Exactly. And it blew up on us. We thought running around telling our friends and family that we're running an accounting firm, that one of them are going to need our services. And it's like, well, yeah, if your parents have full-time jobs and your siblings have full-time jobs, then at most they might want you to do their taxes. At most. But they don't. Right. They don't necessarily have business.
The family money, that'll sustain us.
Right. No. Not practical.
No.
We didn't do any research. We did very little research as to how to start a business at all. And that's from the basics, how to even set the business up, down to what we were, our service industry.
And why was that? Like, why do you think, because it seems to be a theme with you guys in this first firm, like it seems like you jumped in, which sometimes you have to do in life.
Sure.
There are situations, but there wasn't a lot of planning on the back end or on the front end rather. Yep. Like, what do you think that was? Do you think you just underestimated the difficulty, or you just thought you knew it all?
Yes. I think there was a few things that we're going into. So we underestimated how difficult it would be. We definitely overestimated our abilities. And I think, part of it too is just, we were kind of ignorant to what was out there. We were two naive guys thinking we knew everything and we didn't know anything. And it was, so our failure to plan ultimately resulted in us
in a failure.
Yes. And as I said, so this is 2011. We're basically at this point at the peak of our recession, right? This great recession that just occurred. And we're trying to start an accounting firm. And this is in New York too. So we're starting an accounting firm in an already competitive field or a competitive area in a competitive field. Yeah. Perfect storm.
You mean there's a lot of accounting firms in New York?
Yeah. It's just
shocking.
Total perfect.
Never heard that
for us to not succeed. So in the end, we lost the commitment. We lost the drive to build this thing, and the business just kind of fell apart.
Right. So then you went back to the corporate world at some point after that.
Right.
And so on. So you were in the corporate world for several years. And I mean, guys, if you're watching right now too, you have to probably identify with some of the roadblocks that Jared just talked about, like overconfidence, lack of planning, underestimating the difficulty, overestimating your abilities, and not that you shouldn't be confident in when you're on one of these ventures, but there's also, I always say, like, mistakes that you make before you've committed money are much less painful than once after you've committed money, because now you can't even use that money again once you know the right answer. So if you can figure it out beforehand, least have a good chance, you
Right.
know, figuring out.
Right. And you mentioned, you know, were there financial roadblocks? Not with this venture that we
Right.
went into.
Right.
But that's kind of its own thing. I guess the reason that I don't bring up financial as being a roadblock is because money is surprisingly easy to come by if you have a
You heard it here.
if you have a good idea. If you can,
That's true.
You've got it, but to have a good idea, you have to have a plan behind it too.
That's part of the idea.
Right.
Right.
An investor, a bank they're not going to give you money if you knock on their door and say, like, I want to do this.
I'm going to build something to provide limitless, clean energy to the world. Great.
Right.
How?
Exactly.
You know?
They want to see the details. Exactly.
But yeah,
but the money, you can find the money, and that's not to trivialize it. You know, it'll still be a challenge in itself, depending on what you're trying to do. But that should be kind of at the lower list of the roadblocks than necessarily your mental capacity, your abilities, things like that.
So that's an interesting point, guys, for a lot of us too. And I know a lot of the people who watch this channel are in the reselling venture, but you may want to go out into another avenue. Like you say, like you think, well, maybe I want to do private label, or maybe I want to go the wholesale route. And capital, you know, you think is probably a limitation, but I'll be totally honest. Like, a lot of my life, I have wanted to be an entrepreneur, and for lots of reasons, for many, many years, I was not. And one of the excuses I told myself was I don't have the money to start a business. And I realize now, looking back, that was really just an excuse sort of based out of fear.
Yep.
Fear that, I could probably find it, or, you know, or get started, but maybe I'll fail, and I don't want to fail. Nobody wants to fail and feel bad.
Right.
Because because most of us view failure as a negative thing.
Right. Negative attachment to it.
Right. And it's really not. But there is always money out there. You know, like we've started here, guys, you know, we were talking about this consignment business. Well, you don't want to go source items, consign items. Now you just took out your cost of goods for all these items. Is it going to require work, or do you get some duds? You got to figure out a model. Do you have to be efficient? Absolutely. You got to have a plan for all that stuff too.
Yep.
But we said, you know, if I want to go buy brand new Nikes and source them, that's expensive. You know, you got
to put your own money up to get the Nikes to sell.
Right. So you figure out a way to do it to where you don't have to do that. And it comes, you know, it's going to have its limitations too. But so you started this business. You guys decided to call it quits after during the recession. Great timing, by the way, Jared.
Right. What were we thinking?
What could go wrong?
Right. Everything.
Everybody's losing homes left and right.
We're like, hey, let's just do this over here.
People will need our services so badly. If you would have started a bankruptcy firm, that would have made more sense.
Right.
But anyway, so you do that, and you go back in the corporate world, and then you decide to take another swing at this as your own solo venture. But so, and obviously you've had, you know, the last couple of years, so you've started having success, like you've seen success, but how did you get there? Like, how did you make that leap from where you started? And you probably still had the memory of that previous, you know, somewhat in your brain. I mean, we're all human beings. You know, you're going to try again, but you're like, kind of sucked to fail that time. So I really don't want to do that again. It had to give you a little bit of pause sometimes, but how did you get from that point to where you are today? Like, what's different this time around, and maybe even what's the same?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So fast forward, you know, we shut that firm down in 2013. So fast forward 2 years later, and just as you said, I'm getting the itch again to start another accounting firm. I had moved. I'm no longer in New York now. I'm in North Carolina. So different audience, different.
More competitive, less competitive, or just different?
It's different.
Just different. Okay.
Yeah. But here I find myself, you know, I've got, again, working that corporate grind.
Yeah.
Great safety net behind me.
Sure.
Do I really want to leave this behind? So what did I do different this time around? Well, I have this burn on me from when I, you know, kind of jumbled it up to begin with the first time. So I spent months researching what I was trying to do.
Really?
Yes.
Months. And now when you say you spent months, did you jump online for 10 minutes, or was this an hour a day, or 2 hours a week, or 10 hours What did it look like?
Probably hours per day.
Wow.
In some cases.
Wow.
You know, not consistent. You know, we had
Sure.
a job, had life outside of all of it, but
Okay.
probably in some cases it was hours per day. And I did it in a variety of ways. So yeah, there was a lot of online research.
Right.
And really profiling what did these successful businesses around me do and how did they do it to become successful? I mean, what better way than kind of copy what the next guy's doing? That's to get you started.
Yeah.
That may not carry you the long term, but that's going to get you started.
Sure.
I read a lot of books. You know, I found the power in reading and kind of being inspired through that gave me more ideas, gave me great ideas. It was a way for me to generate new thoughts that I wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't read the books. Podcasts, listened to a lot of podcasts.
Nice.
And what I found was I found maybe 2 or 3 really good podcasts. They were just, they were relevant to my industry, relevant to what I wanted to do. And I love the fact that I could basically take it in the car with me. I could run, go for a run and listen to it. I could ride the train. I could go for a bike ride. There was really no limitation. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm getting 2 things done at the same time. It was amazing.
Multitasking, right?
Then I figured out how to make them go faster. I could get it up to 1.5
speed,
yeah, exactly.
Which a lot of people do with my channel, I think.
And now I'm listening to basically, 150% of content.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was a great way for me to learn and absorb information. I also learned the rules and regulations of my industry. Imagine that. I'm regulated. I have regulators that oversee what I do.
That's a good thing. Knowing you, I know how you are. You need regulation.
It's probably.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
It's probably ideal that I know exactly who's doing what up top, right? I mean, someone's going to come in behind me and
somebody's going to come check your work.
Maybe it's a good idea to know what they're going to be looking for.
Right.
In addition to that, some of the rules that I have to play by, all of my clients have to play by.
Yeah, it sucks, by the way.
So when you met me, you didn't know, but we were kind of both starting out around the same time.
Yeah.
How would I have been able to tell you what you need to do and not do if I didn't know for myself? I mean, I have to adhere to a lot of the same rules you do.
Right.
So it was very important for me to learn that information. And actually now this is very interesting. I know all of this information, specifically for a CPA firm, but I've had accountants approach me now and ask me, how do I start an accounting firm?
Oh, that's got to make you feel good.
And that could be a whole thing in itself.
Right. Right.
So that research is starting to pay off a little bit.
Yeah. You're being seen then in your industry as a leader, or as someone who's like, hey, this is someone we can look to and say, and go to for advice, and which is ours as a relationship you and I have, on a different.
Right.
But so that's great. Right. It's really good.
I definitely learned from trying to sell everything to everybody. That didn't work. So what I did is I developed base services. What's my core offering?
Kind of like a niche.
Yeah, exactly. What am I here to do? Who am I here to serve? Let's figure that out first. And then let's think about those crazy ideas that we want to try. And let's throw 1 or 2 of them out there at a time, see what works. Sometimes the stuff works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sure.
And I have learned.
The market will let you know.
Yes.
If it works or not.
Oh, for sure. And I've also learned very quickly what I won't do for people and who I won't work with.
Do you know what one of the most interesting questions you asked me when we first met was? So Jared asked me, this is a true story. Let me tell you how I found Jared. Craigslist. Right. True story. I'm like,
shame. No shame.
Well, but to be perfectly honest, when you're looking for a CPA, unless you're referred, and I didn't want to ask anybody. I kind of like, I knew maybe a person here or there that maybe could have referred someone, but overall I didn't really know too many people. And I'm like, I'll look for somebody local, not for any real particular reason, but just because I could go meet them in person, which was cool. Right. And I literally started looking. I'm like, man, there's all these ads for CPA firms and so on. But of course, their ad is going to say nothing but glowing things and glowing reviews. I get that. So I found this guy on Craigslist. And here's what's so brilliant about what Jared asked me very early on. I'm pretty sure it was that first day we met. He said, I got to ask you, what about the ad made you want to contact me? So he was smart enough to realize that, yeah, he has, the facts and figures and the books parts of what he does, but he's also got to market himself.
Right.
You got to market yourself.
Right.
I don't know why I'm talking about you in the third person like you're not even here, but he's got to market himself because that is part of what he does. It's not just, oh, I'm a CPA and everybody's going to come run into my door and it's just going to be great. I mean, that's not the way it works. Yeah. So he was very, and I'm sure you did that with other people too. You asked them, hey, what kind of connected with you? I don't even remember what it was. There was something about it.
I think what you told me, if I recall correctly, was that it was spelled correctly. Like there was
true.
There were no misspellings.
So the grammar was great.
Grammar was great, and I had all of my information.
Yep.
You could easily see my license number was on there, my address was on there, my name, my phone number, my website. You could find out what you needed to find out about me. It wasn't just like Joe Schmo CPA. Hire me to do your work.
Yeah, it's like you gave me some reason. You took away some of my potential objections to you without even knowing you. Right. Like, well, I don't know. This guy qualified. Is he really who he's, you took away some of those. I'm like, let's give him a chance, And
it worked out.
It worked out. So, I think there's a lesson there for us as business people. Part of what you do is marketing. Yes. Marketing your products, marketing yourself. And going back to your points, you took all this time to learn how to run your business better, whether it was through podcasts or doing research or whatever. You didn't just say, I'm going to start a business and wing it, which is kind of what you did. Right. Not the second time, because the first time you did that, it's like, and there were other events that influenced, that business failing, but you learned enough to say, I've got to have some sort of plan and idea of what I'm doing before I start going down this road. And obviously there's going to be things that are going to come at you can't anticipate, and you're going to have to pivot and change.
Right. I mean, there's always kind of the unforeseen. You have to be mentally agile when you're working for yourself, because there is just so much that comes at you, and it's from every direction, and you just have to be ready to react to it.
Yeah.
And part of that is being proactive too, and kind of staying ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I don't know if I would recommend looking for a CPA on Fiverr. Like, I'll do your taxes for $5. No. Probably. Yeah. I don't know about that.
I don't think that's going to go over too well.
All right. Where were we? I don't even know. I probably interrupted you somewhere.
No, you're good. You're good. And to add to your point too, about marketing yourself, just be genuine, be original with what you're trying to do. As long as you're kind of yourself, people will be receptive to that. Don't change who you are just because you think that the audience you're trying to work with wants to see you a different way. And that's true for anything.
Yeah.
Just stay original, stay true to who you are. It's really important, because the last thing that you're going to want to do is build this business or do anything in life to be a different person because other people want you to be.
It won't work.
It won't. It's destined to fail.
And somebody will still hate you, even if you're that other person.
Yes, always.
As I've learned,
someone's
being on
always
YouTube,
going to hate you.
Someone's going to hate you.
You're always going to have haters.
Yeah, you could be giving away like free gold, and they're like, "Nope, I still hate you." All right, where were we?
You're good.
We've broken down here. What else we were talking about? Some of the roadblocks, or how'd you get where you are today? What'd you do differently? Yes.
So actually, to talk about haters, something that I found in the process of figuring out, starting my business, all of this kind of the second time around, a lot of negativity. There's a lot of negativity out there. A lot of people want to see you fail. A lot of people are there to stop you from doing what you want to do.
True.
And you can't stop it. You can't stop people from saying,
no,
don't be negative, or, you can't do this, but you can counter it. And the one thing that I found was, if I have an overwhelming amount of positivity around me, it will drown out the negativity.
Yep.
That's exactly what I did. I just brought positive influences into my life, and the negativity kept coming. But
sure.
Pluses and minuses. I had more pluses and minuses, and it was just like, hey, no problem, man. You thanks for your opinion.
Yeah. Don't, or as I say, stay off Facebook. Don't watch the news. But that goes back to, the Jim Rohn comment that you're the sum of the average of the 5 people you hang around. You're the average of the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Absolutely.
And if you surround yourself with those people, you'll feel like that.
Absolutely.
And hopefully ones that are even more successful or going down roads you want to go down, because then you learn something from them. Sorry, I saw a couple questions in here. I did not find him in the personals on Craigslist. That was not the section.
Nope.
Professional services or whatever the
financial services.
Financial services. That's what it is. I don't know what it was. Yeah, Amazon seller said, I agree that you shouldn't let failure keep you from doing what you want, but you don't want to consider failure an option either. I would never accept failure as an option. That's right. I mean, it's just something you learn to go on to the next.
Right.
Step.
Failure is one of life's greatest teachers.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
You know, without failing, you'll kind of never learn what you don't know, and you can't progress. You can't grow.
Right.
And that stems back to being afraid to try because you're afraid of failure. So
yeah, that in and of itself is a failure. That's what people don't get. Like, failing to try is maybe the most disruptive, devastating failure there is.
Yeah.
Because failure to try equals one thing: regret. It equals regret. At some point in your life, you're going to say, man, I wish I'd started that business, or I wish I had gone in this direction, or I wish I had taken that trip, or married that girl, or whatever it is.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Or not married that girl.
Married the girl, right.
So, but whatever it is, like that failure to try, I think that's devastating. And I don't think we even anticipate it. Like, we think, I didn't go down that direction, but then you're just left with that uneasy feeling that just sits there and gnaws at you inside you for days and weeks and months and years sometimes.
I mean, regret will eat you alive, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so that's kind of like the last point of how the second try was better, or how it was more successful.
Right.
I actually executed the plan. So I did all this work.
And then you executed.
And then I executed it. I didn't get stopped.
Was that important?
It was pretty important. I didn't get stopped by the fear at the end. I didn't let the negativity come in and say, don't do it. Don't do it. I said, no, all that aside, got to try it. We got to see what happens, because my perspective, this isn't for everybody. This isn't everyone's viewpoint, but my perspective is, what's the worst? I have to go back to my corporate job.
That's exactly right.
That's the agreement that I made with my wife. I said, look, if this doesn't work out, I will go back. We will never speak of this again. That was the deal we made. And now I've told her not going back because it's working and everything's great.
So you have, if I've counted correctly here, at least, I'm going to quickly summarize, because Jared had a question on there, how did he get where he is today? What did he do differently? And there was 5 things. You spent time researching. Mm-hmm. That's number 1. You learned the rules and regulations of what you were trying to do, because there were some. And just like there is for a lot of us who are resellers, there's rules and regulations of e-commerce platforms, and there's legal rules about, collecting sales tax and things like that, and paying your taxes. That'll be a whole nother show. Number 3, figuring out what your base services are, like what you're selling.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to do? What's your niche? What's your bread and butter maybe? 4, drowning out negativity by surrounding yourself with positivity. So you combat negativity with positivity.
Yeah.
And then number 5 is execute the plan you came up with. Like, actually make a plan and then execute it. Like, don't just say, I'm going to go sell widgets tomorrow, and then you never sell widgets. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't, and I guess if you do all the planning and you come to the conclusion that this doesn't make sense, this is not profitable, it's not what I really want to do, that's different than having a pristine plan ready to go and then just saying, I don't want to do this because I'm afraid. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Part of the plan is, through the planning process, you realize whether it will or won't work. That is part of the process. And
I think too, with us, especially in this community, part of our problem with not executing the plan is we get attracted to shiny objects.
Yes.
And we get distracted and we decide, well, I'll go do this. And then we do that for a week. And they say, well, then I'll go do that. And full disclosure, I've been guilty of it. It's happened to me.
We all are.
It's like, I'll go the Amazon route, or I'll sell only jeans, or I'll sell only shoes, or I'll sell jeans and shoes, or I'll do consignment. We do, but I have to say that for the most part, I had a plan when I started, and decided if that was the right way. And some of it has been the right way. It hasn't been like I've given up on everything. Just some things I didn't do as much of, because it just doesn't make sense.
And you still do your core services. So some of kind of similar to what I've done. I try new ideas, see what works, what doesn't work. And for you, you're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, look, if I came up with $1 million idea that was going to catapult my business way beyond where I am, and it wasn't doing my core services, I may have to realign things a little
Right.
bit.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. It makes sense at that point, but you still have your core services until you get that shooting star that you can kind of work into.
Right. Or, like a warehouse drops in your lap.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Like when you have an opportunity like that in your business, whatever your business is, the second I realized that this warehouse was a potential, asset to our business, we were going to be able to use it, I started thinking of ways to use it.
Yeah, you called me a couple times about it.
I did. And he was one of the first people I called, and if not the first person. And I said, hey, this happened. And woohoo, after the initial, and then I thought, well, how am I going to use this? Like, what's this going to look like? And that evolved over a period of a few weeks and so on. And there's still some evolution going on there. But when you have an asset, space, right? That's the asset. That's what a warehouse gives you. It's space. It's space that you didn't have before that now you have. You got to think of ways to use it. Yep. You got to think, it's like, what makes sense with my skill set and what I'm doing and my contacts and my network and, my background. And we've started this consignment, although I hate that word. It's very old school, but we've started sort of this consignment model to help take advantage of it, but it may not stay that. Who knows? Anything can happen.
Well, and to further your point, not every opportunity will you have endless amount of time to make a decision on.
Right.
You may have to plan very quickly. You have to be very adaptive to the opportunities that come to you. And you may have to say no just because you don't have time to plan for it. You don't have time to think about it. But you still should evaluate every opportunity independent of each other and really assess whether it's going to help your business or hurt your business.
Some of the people in this chat right now, and that'll be watching this video later, are probably thinking about starting a business. Maybe it's a reselling business. Maybe it's, eBay, Amazon, Etsy, Poshmark, whatever. I almost said Petsy. That'd be kind of funny. Petsy. Let's start a new one.
There you go.
Or maybe it's some other type of business. And obviously, you have a lot of experience dealing with people of all different levels in business. And I'm not talking about like their sales, just their competency as an entrepreneur, their experience. What's a couple things that maybe you would say to somebody who was thinking about starting a business today? What would what kind of, if they said, hey, Jared, give me one or two of your best pieces of advice, what would you say?
I would challenge that client. Let's talk about the plan. What does your plan look like? What are your goals? Why are you doing this? So we have a meeting and we talk through what's the grand vision? Why are you even thinking about doing this? Do you want to replace income? Do you want to create a legacy business? Do you want to do a pump and dump where you just build a business fast and you get rid of it? Every path has a different plan. There's not just one size to fit them all. It's every path is different. And so we kind of got to evaluate, why do people do what they do? And then we've got to figure out the plan. So I would anyone coming to me, I would challenge them and say, what's the plan? How do you want to do this? And what happens
when you have a client maybe who comes to you and they say, I want to start this business. And you say, all right, well, what's your plan? And you did that with me. And in full disclosure, Jared asked me in the space of probably several weeks or even a couple months or so, as many questions as anybody's ever asked me. And some of them were technical about, we had, things with inventory and QuickBooks and so on, but it was also about, the business and the model. And he's got like this kind of brain where he just sort of deconstructs what you say and he talks it out and like views it from a different angle sometimes than I do and tells me when it's stupid. And it's sometimes stupid, but he doesn't say stupid. But I know he's thinking it.
I challenge you to think about what you're doing.
Translation, that's stupid. But what do you say to a client though, especially if it's a prospective new one? And a lot of people who watch this show are fairly new to reselling and so on. And I struggle sometimes when they ask me a question about something that I know where the question's coming from. And I know what they're really trying to ask. And maybe it's not sometimes a question itself, but what do you say to them? Like when their plan on the face of it seems dubious, for lack of a better word. Not like it's not going to work, or at least on the face of it.
If somebody truly approaches me and they lay out a plan that's just like, I know it's going to fail. I know it's destined to not work. and it could be, there's so many reasons why. Maybe I can just tell that the person doesn't have the background for it.
Right.
Maybe it's a capital intensive project and they don't have any capital
that they have access to. Right.
They have no way, if you knock on my door and you got a 450 credit score and you need $1 million. It's
tough.
It's going to be hard to get your business where you want to take it.
Yeah.
So I've got to assess a lot of different factors. But when someone approaches me and they give me that sort of plan, I know it's not going to work. I have to get real with people and kind of break it down and say, let's micro size this a little bit. Maybe this is where you want to be at the end of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
What can we do to get you the first step?
Right.
Like maybe they're giving me the grand plan, the 10-year plan, the 5-year plan. But maybe I'm looking at it and saying, that's going to take 5 years to even be remotely possible. So what can we do differently? How can we kind of reverse engineer this to get you in a more practical mindset that's going to get you there ultimately? And not every business is going to succeed. That's its own reality. But
sure, I can
certainly stop people from making poor decisions or try to.
Why do you think a lot of businesses fail?
Yeah.
And why do you think they fail? Like, what does it look like in your experience?
Probably, honestly, and this is not to toot the tax industry, but probably the number one thing is taxes.
Really?
Yes.
Like, what do you mean when you say taxes?
There's just a lot of misunderstanding among business clients, how much they owe, how to calculate things like that.
We owe money?
Everyone owes money. Pay your taxes.
Jeez. You should work for the IRS. Dang it. Actually, he doesn't like the IRS.
I work with.
He has a hate relationship with the IRS.
Yeah. I mean,
they make it difficult.
They're okay.
They're okay, but he doesn't like them.
It's the people there are okay. The entity itself.
Itself sucks. Let's be clear. We can say that on YouTube.
He said,
it's most people.
It's definitely it's a big roadblock for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's really not to toot my own horn, but it's the number one thing that basically stops the growth. It stops the engine because you get that first tax bill just from ignoring your requirement.
Yes.
It stops all the systems. You basically like, I can't grow because now I have to take care of this problem over here. And you just found out they're going to take the money from you one way or another. So it's like you either pay it or they're going to come and get it from you type of thing. But then there's mindset. That's a lot of it too. There's commitment.
Yeah.
People, and this is pretty notorious. A lot of people think that they're going to start a business. It's going to get successful in 18 months. And they're going to be drinking, daiquiris on the beach somewhere, pushing a button.
It happens.
Generating millions of dollars just from a smartphone. There's like 3 people in the world doing that right now.
Yeah, Tim, what's his name? Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss, right? Yeah. I'm
trying to think of the other 2. And even that didn't happen for him. If you read his story, that's not how it went.
No. But it's that's not practical. It's not a practical business model. It really doesn't end that way for many people. Actually, most of the success stories, you build the business, you sell it, and then you're like, I want to do it again. So it's actually kind of, repeat the cycle.
Selling my business.
You got to get back out there.
Sell my business.
But you sell this one, you build another one, you do it again.
I could sell this one, actually. Not yet. It's nowhere near ready for that.
Everything can be sold. Well,
the problem with reselling businesses, though, is they revolve so much around the reseller that it's hard to duplicate. It's hard to give that to someone. But if you have relationships and clients, certain business relationships, that could be, but still somebody buying it, I would say has a fairly high chance of failure. And most people, only because if they come into it with no experience at all, not because it's hard, but just because they just don't know.
But you're a target for someone who has a seasoned reselling business.
True.
You're and if they want model target for someone.
That's right. I am for sale.
Suddenly you're for sale.
1.2 million.
There
If
you
you've
go.
got that,
Let's do it.
we can bargain, you know, or best offer.
Best offer. Why don't you put the business on eBay? Put your business on eBay.
Put my business on eBay.
Just always have it out there.
I feel like the valuation might be a little high.
No, whatever. It's what it's worth to you.
The market, it's a little high. But yeah, so I mean, what sort of like, you know, habits do you have, Jared, that, you know, maybe you've practiced regularly that help you in this entrepreneurial journey that maybe you could share with people that they could use in their own business?
Yes. So I've got, you know, kind of 3 habits that I like to practice. First, I like to take care of my body. And I think this gets overlooked. This is something that people just kind of disregard. But when you're working 16 hours a day, trying to build a business or do work or whatever, you got to think about, you know, the food you eat, what comes into the body. Sure. That's the fuel that's going to keep us going. It's very important that that's it's clean food. It's healthy. It's good for you.
Right.
I'm not saying you can't, you know, eat what you want here and there, but
Oreos are good.
Yeah, you can eat an Oreo. Just don't eat a whole sleeve.
One.
Yeah. You want the whole package.
Oh, it's a thing. What else you got?
So on top of that, you know, you've got to exercise. You know, it's all part of taking care of your body. Sure. Take care of your mind too. Decompress a little bit. Step away from it once in a while. The business will be okay. It's okay to take some time off. It's okay to read a book. It's okay to meditate. It's okay. Whatever you do. Maybe some people like to pray. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever your thing is, your mind, it's challenged all day long with what you're doing. Running a business is extremely intense. So, you know, you have to make sure that you're kind of servicing your body on an ongoing basis. The
stress creeps up on you. It's not any one thing. It's not the $50,000 tax bill.
Yeah, it's not like
it's all the little things.
Yes.
It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly.
Some days, you know, I realize that. And then I get to the end of the day and I'm like, man, today sucked. It was like really stressful. And I'm like, God, this happened to that. And you don't even realize in the moment sometimes. And you're just like, oh.
Yeah. The second thing is you need to be committed to what you're doing. So you spend all this time planning your business. You start the business. You've got to be committed to it. Right. And this kind of goes back to my point earlier that there's a guy on a beach somewhere, pushes a button, makes $1 million. There very well may be someone doing that around the world right now. But that guy worked really hard to get to that point.
Sure.
That didn't happen overnight.
Right.
He probably put long hours in. He probably worked harder than his peers. He probably did things that people thought were just insanely crazy, like quitting a secure job to go start a company, right?
Yeah, well.
And here I am. I work a lot of hours, especially now. It's tax season.
It's funny because, you know, thinking about your story, if you hadn't failed in 2011,
I may not be here.
You probably, it would all have been different. Like you may have, like if you wouldn't even have tried that, let's say, who knows what today would look like.
I would be here on Earth, but I would possibly not.
It would be totally different. And you wouldn't have the same, you know, quality of like professional life that you have now. It would be different. Right. You know, and probably not in a good way. Like you may have settled and like, oh, I went out there and failed and
it was very,
I'm done. That's
very
it.
Tempting,
not one chance.
So many times, very tempting to just say, you know what, this is good enough for me. Let me just get this paycheck. Let me just robot along until the end of the journey. I don't want to do that. It just wasn't for me. It didn't feel like who I am. So the third habit that I can share with you, be grateful. You got to express that gratitude. Be right. Thank the people that you work with, that you work for. You know, be helpful. Just overall, just be grateful for the opportunity to even do what you do. Right. And it's when you start to do that, when you start to express more gratitude, you'll start to see that you adopt this abundance mentality. You're all of a sudden, you're less afraid of where's that next deal going to come from? Right. When's the next opportunity? When's the next sale going to hit? Because you're so grateful for what you have that it's like when that happens, you're more grateful. It's like, oh, great, this happened. Yeah. This is a good thing. That's true. You've got to be grateful for what you've got in front of you, and don't get overwhelmed with trying to get to the next level, trying to get that next thing to the next spot. It's always good to have goals, for sure. Reach, try, stretch, but always come back to center and say, you know, I'm grateful for what I've got in front of me. Yeah. That's so good. That is so true. And
you said something to me yesterday that really picked up my spirits on the phone, and it was so true, because I was kind of having a little bit of a down moment, and Jared picked up on it, and it was very perceptive. And he was like, "Hey man, it's gonna be good. Things pick up, they turn around." And it did. Like, after you said that, it reminded me, like, I was like, you know what, he's right. And we all need that. We need people in our lives who will do that. Oh, look, somebody just subscribed to your channel. Oh, look
awesome.
at that.
Look at that.
So, yeah, Jared has a channel down there. And well, if you guys have questions too for Jared, and so on, please leave them in the question, or please leave them in the chat below. Type the word question, or type a bunch of question marks in front of your question, and we'll be glad to answer them. Hold me, bro. Aaron said that's pretty funny, Aaron. I don't think he has that service. There is a hugging service, they have.
I think I've read about one or two of those.
They go out and give you a hug, and they just sit there and they hug you. There's nothing funny going on, which is kind of weird. But yeah, just so Jared actually has a YouTube channel, and I think you have like your links to like your website on there, and email and so on.
And the YouTube channel's on hiatus right now.
He hasn't made videos in a couple months, but
yeah, it's a busy time of year, but I'm hoping that at some point I can get back on that horse and keep it going.
Well, and shameless plug here, because Jared obviously is a CPA by trade, so he has a thriving business. But if you have need for those services or so on, or just even sort of the business advisory, reach out to him, because your CPA, I think we've debunked this one, but your CPA or someone who does your accounting, your bookkeeping, your tax, they don't have to be in the same location you're in.
Right.
You don't have to search on the local Craigslist for them unless you really want to.
You can. You might find my clone kicking around out there, and that's great.
That's true.
Great.
That's true. But yeah, so and somebody said, how does he work with out-of-state clients? So you just do it.
Yeah, over the phone, internet. If it's the right deal, by air travel, I will come visit you.
Jared will come visit. He'll stay in your house. He'll eat your food. But it has to be good food, because it's
got to be the right deal.
That's great.
But to further that, as a CPA, we are known as a trusted advisor in the business community.
Right.
And I can give you insight into other things. I don't need to do your taxes. I don't need to do your accounting, but I can help you navigate some of the storm that you're going through too.
Oh, yeah.
And so many times people contact me, and, we do a consultation, we do a coaching session, we get to the end of it, and I always ask the same question. Was this helpful? How do you feel now? And the stress level goes from here to here, because it's just being able to talk to someone and get it out there. And it's all confidential. It's not, it's not me running back to someone else and telling anyone about what I've heard, but it's like, they're able to kind of open it up and just pour it all out there. And I'm able to help them figure it out. Take the puzzle pieces, let's put it together, let's get a plan, and then let's execute that plan. And that could be for anything.
That is like so that is so refreshing in your industry, because I've told you this before, your industry sometimes tends to be very transactional. Somebody comes to you and says, I want this, you deliver that, it's done. Money exchanges hands, services exchanges hands, they do the work for you. And I'm like, why does it have to be that way? Like, that's just so, I was thinking about a great, this is maybe not a great analogy, but like when I get a haircut, sometimes you go in there and the person cuts your hair and they literally say nothing to you the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this person has a sharp object near my carotid artery and they're touching my head, and they literally have no connection to me whatsoever, other than they just want to get this over with as quick as possible so they can get to the next client.
Yep.
I have no desire to ever go back to that person again, even if it's a great haircut, and you don't have that issue. But but on the other hand, when they're like engaging and they're having a conversation, and they seem to actually care if like what they're doing, hey, how does that look? How does this feel? All right, I can work with something here, even if it's not the best. I can say this person actually cared to some degree with the work they were doing for me, and that makes an impact on you. I think that's important in your field as well.
Yeah, I mean, for my industry in particular, it's I like to look at it like every relationship is it's important. Yeah, there's no one more important than the next, and time's limited, and there's always a capacity function too, but. It's a relationship-based industry. You mentioned transaction-based. I really don't appreciate that. And I do transactional work. There are people that come to me and say, Jared, can you just do this. We need to get it done. And
Right.
that's what it is. That's what the relationship is. But that's the client setting the tone.
Yeah.
For me, my preference would be I'm going to set the tone, and it's going to be an open, warm, friendly relationship where we can have this kind of dialogue back and forth. And that's been pretty successful.
One of the things I love about Jared and his approach is not every hour is a billable hour.
Yeah, I'm sure you love that.
He probably loves it with me too. He's like, great. We're talking. I'm not making any money. And we've had some conversations on the phone for sure, several times. Yeah. And they've been about many different topics. But the point is, it's like, you know, that builds sort of that client relationship that is missing in a lot of people's you know, a lot of people's businesses and so on. So I think that, you know, I think your approach there, I mean, I guess there are people out there who probably think I just want sort of the transactional relationship, but I always think when they say that, it's because they haven't had anything different. You know, a lot of times they haven't experienced anything different, and they haven't experienced, you know, a more meaningful connection to a service professional that they hire, such as yourself, you know, to help them with their business. It's like they look at it as like, I'm just going to give them this, they're going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and that's it. Yeah. They just don't know they kind of don't know any better, you know? So I would encourage you guys, like, whatever you do, if you're having, you know, need of accounting services or CPA services, look for somebody who, as you said to me very early on, would rather have you as a client and not just as a customer, right? I think that's how you said it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Customers tend to, you think about a customer, you go to a store, we're all customers. We go buy something, we leave, right? Yeah. It's transactional. You want someone who's going to kind of cultivate the relationship with you, work with you, build with you, and not just kind of like shoo you away, like you're too small, you're meaningless, it's not worth my time. That's usually, you know, a red flag. Yeah. That person's probably not a good fit.
And in full disclosure, Jared, when I approached him and told him what I did, he's like, I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I have a few. And so he learned some things along with me as we went. And we went down a couple roads. Like I remember with inventory, you know, we went down a road with QuickBooks and so on that I discovered after a few weeks was not working for me. Not because it was a bad plan, but because it was just too time consuming to do. And eBay doesn't always make it the simplest to match everything up on that back end anyway. And when I approached Jared with that, he said, all right, we'll do it a different way. And we did. And we just, you know, started using a different way of computing and so on. And it was fine. It wasn't like he said, well, you know, that's stupid. That's the worst idea. You have to keep doing it this way or else. He's like, nope, client wants to do it a different way. We'll figure it out. You know, and that's what people should do in that situation. And we came together and talked about that. And I was like,
right. You know. And it was, I mean, look, that was a grueling time because it took so much effort from both of us. But at the end of it, you know, now I know better. Now I know, stop everyone from going down that path.
Yeah, I know better too.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Don't try to enter every transaction of inventory in QuickBooks. No. Oh, unless you're selling like one thing a month. So then it might not be a big deal. But so Jared, I'm going to we're here at the top of the hour, even though it's the half hour. So I just want to give you a chance here to, like, you know, talk about how can people like contact you or maybe, you know, get in touch with you about this client relationship or anything business related and such.
Sure. So my email should hopefully be in the description.
I don't think I put that in there, but I'll put it in there.
So you can definitely reach out by email. You can give me a call. Those are basically the two ways that you can get a hold of me, because I don't want you knocking on my door.
I don't know where he lives. Yeah. Just kidding.
I really don't. No, really feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions. You know, depending on what the question is, we'll kind of dictate whether or not we're going to have a consultation, things like that. But don't be afraid to reach out. You know, even if it's just a simple question, a concern, something like that, or if you want full scale, you know, analysis of your business, things like that, coaching, bigger things, accounting services too. Obviously, I can provide all of that, tax services. That's completely up to you guys. But my information should hopefully be in the description. You can also visit my website online, and there is a way to contact me through my website as well. So feel free to use that submission form to contact me.
Yep, absolutely. And I don't get any kickback, by the way, if you contact Jared. Just full disclosure there. I don't have an affiliate link here. So he's just a good guy, and, you know, he's helped me out a lot, and I highly recommend him for any of your business services you need like that. So Well, thanks, man, so much for this. This was awesome. I really did not know everything he was going to talk about. I mean, he kind of gave me this outline, but I actually didn't know anything about his previous business. If I did, I don't know if I would have reached out. No, just kidding. But actually, I'd have been more likely to reach out to you. But I really appreciate it and contacting people. And I hope that you guys realize that, you know, a failure is a really good way to be successful. And it's almost, you could argue it's probably necessary in a lot of ways. So don't be afraid of it. Be more afraid of failing to try, because that can really leave you with a lot of regret. So you got anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered it all.
We covered it all. It's all done. Internet's done. Yep. We can shut her down. No need. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here probably tomorrow with another show live. But if not, check out all the other videos on the channel. And don't forget to look in the description for contact info for Jared and other helpful links and so on. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for now. So hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.